Action.
Hi guys, and welcome back to Sheddy's Kitchen. I'm Sheddy. Today we're making a Chana Dal recipe. It is a beautiful vegan dish. It goes really well with chapatis. Also goes with our Paratha recipe, which you can find links for in our description. It is very low on calories. So are you ready? Let's get cooking. Prior to starting cooking this dish, what you need to do is make sure that beforehand that you soak the Chana Dal that we're going to be using in water overnight. Now we've washed this Chana Dal in water, then we've left it in water to soak. That needs to be done, and it's quite important that you do that. We're going to first start off with, we've got a pan over here, we're going to put that onto a high heat, so make sure you keep high heat throughout on this. I'll just put that on there now. And to that, what we're going to add is 300 mils of sunflower oil. I'm just going to let that warm up, and then we'll come back to you when that's warm, and we will add the onions to that. So now the oil is starting to heat up quite nicely there. You can see bubbles coming into that to the surface. We're going to add 250 grams of chopped onions. We'll give that a nice little mix in there, and again we're going to give this time to brown, and we'll come back to you for the next part of the ingredients and what we're adding once these onions have softened and they begin to brown. We may even add a bit of dash of water a bit later to do it to the actual mixture. Always keep a bit of water there anyway, so that it allows the onions to soften. So you do add a bit of water later on, you can do. It just allows the onions to soften and allow them to cook better. But we'll come back to you when that's done. These are sufficiently brown now. We're going to add the next part of the ingredients in, so let's get the spices into there. And to this, what you need to add is 1 teaspoon of red chili powder, half a teaspoon of turmeric powder, which is known as haldi, one and a half teaspoon of cooking salt, and we've got 1 teaspoon of, we've just finely chopped, you can finely chop or just use crushed ginger, and 2 teaspoons of crushed garlic. Now we're going to give this a nice mix and get them all ingredients mixed into there now. And to this we can add a tiny bit of water to allow the onions to soften a bit, just a little splash. There you go, of water, allowing the onions to soften up a bit more in there. We've been mixing that for about a minute or so, and now what I'm going to add to that is 2 medium-sized tomatoes that we've chopped. That'll introduce some water into there as well. And we've got over there 2 green chilies, we've chopped them as well. But with the green chilies, we've used quite long green chilies, but this is purely dependent on how chili you want this dish. So if you want to check beforehand, you can just give them a little taste. But we're using 2 green chilies which we've chopped into there. Again, we'll give that a nice mix. It'll introduce some water into there, you can see straight away from the tomatoes, which will allow the onions to soften up a bit more. What I would advise you to do at this point, if you just keep something in there handy, would be make sure you boil some water on the side in a kettle. We're going to require 1 litre of boiling water a bit later on in the dish. Next to this, we need to add some red chili flakes. I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of that. And 2 teaspoons of dry coriander powder. I will give that a nice mix. I'll add a tiny bit more water into that, because just to make sure that the onions soften up a bit more in there. So we'll just add a little dash of water. There you go, that's enough. Give that a nice mix. Okay, next I'm going to add these Chana Dal that we've soaked in water from the night before. We're adding 300 grams into there directly. When you add the 300 grams into there, what I'd advise you to do is get your water boiling. So you'll need approximately 1 litre of that. We'll be adding that very soon now. So once you put these lentils in, you want to just give them a good mix in there. And we'll come back to you in a few minutes time when this has started to cook a bit better, before we add the next part of the ingredient. So this has been now just cooking away for the last 5 minutes or so. We've got the boiling water ready. You can taste this if you want, just to make sure at this moment in time if there's enough salt in the actual dish itself, so that you can do it to your acquired taste. If you need to add more salt you can do. And to this, what we're going to add now is the boiling water. So we've got 1 litre of boiling water that we pre-boiled in the kettle. I'll add that now. And at this point over here, what I will suggest is give it a good mix. And what we're aiming to do over here is allow approximately half the water to boil off, so evaporate off. And then at that point, we're going to check the dal to see if it's softened sufficiently. If it has softened sufficiently, then we will drop it onto a low heat. If the dal hasn't sufficiently softened, we will put it onto a low heat, and obviously with half the amount of water that we've got in there, we will leave it on a low heat. But if it has, if it's still relatively, if it has remained relatively soft at the halfway point, we will then leave it on a high heat and carry on letting the water run down. But we'll get to that point when the water's at a halfway point, and then we'll tell you what you need to do there for the next set of instructions. It's been about 5 minutes now. You can see the water's come in fairly down in there. You can see the dal over here. Just a quick check you need to do with the dal. It will be relatively hot, but you need to just have a go at squeezing one of the dal. And for us at the moment, we have tried one now. It'll be relatively hot to do, but you can see it quite easily breaks in there. I'll just show you, it has broken quite easily in there, which means at this point that's sufficiently boiled and sufficiently soft. So what we are going to do now is I'm going to add to this dish the fresh coriander. We're using 50 grams of chopped fresh coriander. And just a note over here, if the dal is still relatively hard, you don't need to put it onto a low heat. You need to allow it to carry on boiling away in there a bit longer. But it is sufficiently soft for us now, so I will need to drop this onto a lower heat. So I'll put in the 50 grams of chopped coriander into there, give that a bit of a mix. To that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of dry cumin powder, and this is known as jeera, very teaspoon. Give that a mix as well. I'm going to drop this onto a low heat. Just pop a lid onto the pan, and we're going to leave that now for approximately 4 to 5 minutes, then we'll come back and look at how that's done. So this has been boiling away now on a low heat for approximately 9 to 10 minutes or so. The dal should be sufficiently soft. I'm just going to take the lid off here, pop the lid to the side, and you can see a lot of the water there's still water in there. That's absolutely fine, not a problem at all, but we're going to take it off heat completely. And once we take it off heat, what you need to do is just leave this dish to settle for approximately a few minutes before you actually go ahead and serve this dish. So that's what we're going to do over there, and we're done. So time to get the approval, or the seal of approval, from my parents. Seal of approval met. For many more recipes, make sure you subscribe to my channel, do click that notification bell, and I'll see you soon.